Hey everyone, thanks for joining us here on the Hair Transplant Channel, the main event. My name is Joe Tillman, and if you don't know who I am or what I'm doing here behind this microphone, I've been in the hair transplant industry for 20 years now. I am a 29-year hair transplant patient, or I should say repair patient. Had 2 bad hair transplants and then went bald, had the bad hair plugs in the front, had a repair job 21 years ago, and that hooked me into the industry because I realized what a good hair transplant can do for someone. And it's really been a hell of a journey, and like there's so much to it, but bottom line is it leads me right here to you, and I appreciate you joining me. I'm trying to make sure I got everything going up here properly on my end. Let's see, I want to make sure I got multiple screens going on here. And I think this is going to work. Thanks for bearing with me. I didn't have a big plan for today because my schedule was unexpectedly busy, and so I was trying to work out some kinks in the armor, kinks in the system on getting people hearing each other that I'm connecting through my central location. So bunch of technical stuff that I'm trying to get through, but it will work at some point. But like I said, just want to get on here, get on the air with you guys. I committed to doing Monday through Thursday. Today's Thursday. Thank God tomorrow it's all in Spencer's hands on The Bald Truth at the same time, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, and 10 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. It's tough trying to remember all that. So anyway, again, appreciate everyone joining. The past 2 episodes, day before yesterday and then yesterday, turned out really great. I was fortunate enough to get a couple of Hair Transplant Mentor member doctors to come on board, and it didn't require a lot of work. It was just, I texted them real quick, said, hey, are you free at 3 p.m. or 6 p.m. Your time? And they just happened to be free. And the first was Dr. Aaron Nussbaum. And I don't recall him ever being on any sort of interview format on YouTube like this before. I don't think he was on The Bald Truth in the past. He might have called in. I could be wrong. I know he's not been in studio, but maybe he called in at one point. But anyway, it was a pleasure having him in, and it was nice to see in the comments down below that people really enjoyed his presence. One comment was that he's very knowledgeable, and he is very knowledgeable. I think it's fantastic that he's got such a long history in hair transplants, but he's only like, I think 35, 36 years old. He's young, relatively speaking, in this industry, but he's been around the industry for like 33 years, since he was 3 years old, because his father, Dr. Bernard Nussbaum, is one of the OG original great hair transplant surgeons from the 90s and early 2000s, and and he's still operating he's operating on a very reduced schedule, but yeah, I like his story. And so when I was learning that about him, when I was going through the review process, I was really struck by that, and it really stood out. And so seeing the work, you can tell that the guy knows what he's doing, and that only comes from experience, and that's a good thing. And of course, yesterday's guest was the one and only Dr. Jerry Cooley. Like, so much can be said about him. He's one of the actual true pioneers in the industry. I don't like using that word in general because it's so overplayed, it's so overused, it's beyond cliche. It's a cliche of itself, and he really is one of the real good guys in this industry. And I don't mean just being a nice guy. I mean he's really good at what he does, very ethical, has a very sensible approach. He is also the longest standing hair transplant hair transplant mentor member. He's been with me for 7 years, and we work closely. He's, I've talked about this before. I don't just do the videos on YouTube. I don't just put these guys on my websites. I'm working with them behind the scenes. I act as a sounding board for things they're trying to work on, or if ideas that they come up with. They like having me as a sounding board because they know I'm objective. They know I'm not going to tell them what they want to hear because I work for them. Because I don't work for them. I'm outside of their clinic, and so that's something I didn't really foresee getting into this. I knew I'd be doing things with the clinics I work with as far as on the back end, trying to help them, improve things, efficiencies, and, dealing with all kinds of stuff. But that was one of the things I didn't expect. And it's fun because I like hearing about, I get to hear about a lot of ideas that sometimes they come to fruition and they're considered to be, pretty new ideas and paths to take in this industry. Sometimes you don't hear about them. Things don't come to fruition, that's fine. But it's fun. And Dr. Cooley is one of those doctors it's just fun to work with. So a lot of great content yesterday. There was a mountain of content yesterday, actually. But yeah, great questions too. And so that's what we're doing today. Like I said, I didn't have, someone's calling my phone. I didn't have a lot of time to put anything together. So I thought I'd just take some phone calls, or at least answer questions in the chat. And I'll get to that here in just a bit. But if you haven't called before, if you don't see the number, I think I got it down in the description, but the number is 1-833-563-4247. That's 833-563-4247. And it should work today. I did run a test with a buddy of mine today, but we'll see. In the meantime, let me put on my glasses and jump up here on the screens. If you got any questions, like I said, feel free to put them down in the chat room. Let's see, I gotta get to the page here. I can't even see you guys yet. Feel free to put them down in the chat. I knew I had to turn that volume off. My voice, my sound sounds like it's got a strange sound to it. Do you guys hear that? Like when I play it back, let's see. Sound sounds like it's almost like I'm in a can or some sort. It's like over processed. Maybe it's on my board. Let me check something out here. It's kind of weird. Turn off processing. So let's try that. Give it a few minutes. I can hear a difference back in my earbuds. Appreciate your patience on this. One-man operation, kids. Yeah, strange sound, Nico, but audible. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but let me try it now. Let's see. One-man operation, kids. Yeah, strange sound, Nico, but no, I'm thinking it might be over-processing on YouTube's part, because I do process audio, but I don't know. Another thing to work on. Let's see, settings look good, but yeah, I can't deal with that now. You guys can understand me, and that's what matters. So if anyone wants to call in, it's 1-833-563-4247. Again, it's 833-563-4247. This is the main event, the solo outing for me, Joe Tillman, hair transplant mentor on the Hair Transplant channel, Monday through Thursday. This is the only live stream in the world currently that is a daily show. That's a first. I can claim that, I think. Bald Truth, let's see. I keep getting this call. Bald Truth is, gosh, I gotta tell you, I love the Bald Truth every Friday. Been looking forward to it, but I felt the need to go daily because you guys want the opportunity to have your questions answered, and I want to reach a larger audience, and the only way to do that is to go daily. And so Monday through Thursday for me, and then every Friday with me, and of course the one and only Spencer Coburn. Let's see if we got any questions here. Nico F, yeah, bummed you missed Dr. Cooley. I'm bummed too. It would have been nice to have some of your questions. See, Mahaj Ahmed, Mahaj Ahmed. What can I do if finasteride is only slowing down hair loss? Good question. I've been on finasteride for 7 years and maybe dropped 1 Norwood level during that time. I tried dutasteride, but got sides, got ED. All right, that's a good question. My first question always in these situations is, are you on finasteride? Is it generic or is it name brand Propecia or Proscar? If it is generic, I always recommend to people, I'm not a doctor, but I always recommend that people go find the original Proscar or Propecia. If you can get Proscar, that's better because it's about the same cost as Propecia, but because it's a bigger pill, you can cut it into quarters and take 1 quarter a day or every other day, however it's prescribed to you, as opposed to Propecia. And if you're doing a quarter tablet and just saying it's a daily dose, then that's quartering your cost as well. So if you are on name brand, then talk to your doctor about maybe upping your dosage, because it doesn't always stop hair loss. It can greatly slow it. The question is, would you have been losing hair faster if you weren't on it? Don't know. I can't answer that question. But if you are on generic, which is most likely the case, and you can tell me down in the chat room, then I would seriously consider talking to your doctor about getting on name brand. It will cost more, but you have to ask yourself, what's your hair worth? I can't answer that. I know what it is for me. I would never use generic in my case unless there was no other choice. Thanks for the question. Let's see, Milk Drinker. Welcome to the Daily Hair Loss Podcast, the happiest place on earth. I wouldn't go that far because hair loss isn't really something to be happy about, but I can appreciate your sentiment there. That makes sense. Oh, Nico, that was you. Okay, you were calling. Okay. Let's see, let me turn off my phone here because this is I'm getting some cross issues here. Hold on. Okay, Nico, you can call back. Again, it's 1-833-563-4247. And while you're doing that, okay, there's a call. I think we know who this is. Thanks for calling. You're on the air with Joe and the main event. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
It's me, Nico.
It's me, Nico. All right, buddy. Thanks for calling. Sounds good on my end. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah, I hear you great.
Okay, I'm going to pop on here and see if this is coming through on the, here we go, on the live stream. This is coming through on the, here we go. That's pretty fast. On the live stream. This is coming through on, not sure if we can hear it. Can you guys hear us? Can you hear Nico in the chat?
Check 1 2 1 2. What is this? Okay. You guys hear?
There's a delay, so they can't hear. They can't respond too quick. They'll let us know here in just a second. Waiting for confirmation. Okay, they can hear you. Awesome. Okay. Wow, that works. Nico, man, how's it going, buddy? What's new?
Well, same old. Nothing too new.
Mm-hmm.
Had a couple questions. Sorry, I missed yesterday's Dr. Cooley, but I got some of the playback and have to finish it up. But bummed I missed that one.
Yeah, I wish you had too. You're able to call in. But what's the question, man? What's going
on? Well, I had one question for him, and maybe just a couple general ones with you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember seeing on his old, when you do the good old Google search and images, looking at Dr. Cooley's work from the past. I remember one case where he had some guy come in where I think, and you've talked about this on Ball Truth in the past, he did some work on a guy who had like a what's the terminology, a low-grade infection on his scalp from using like a hair in a can spray.
Yeah.
And I remember he had something on one of his images. I was curious how he treated that, if it was like sort of whatever that word is.
Corticosteroid. Yeah, it would probably be a topical antibiotic, or even it depends on the situation. Severe cases it can be one thing, if it's minor the other, but you don't want to treat low-grade infection with corticosteroids. You want to go with an antibiotic to treat that. If it's corticosteroids are for a range of issues, but I don't think that would be applicable in that situation. But it is something that is variable, so it's something that's best treated by a dermatologist that is familiar with hair specifically. I find that a lot of dermatologists, like if you just open the phone book and go to a dermatologist, Jesus, I just aged myself. A phone book. Who uses a phone book? If you go online, I can't believe I said that. If you go online to find a dermatologist, chances are they won't really have a great grasp on how to deal with issues on the scalp or with your hair. So in your case, open up the IAHRS phone book and find a dermatologist, hair restoration surgeon there. And I think in your area that would be Dr. Bernstein. I think Carlos Wesley. I think he's a dermatologist.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've seen them all, man.
Yeah. And
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, I know you've been to these guys, but the low grade infection. Are you? And sorry, refresh my memory. I didn't think that was the case on you. Was it low grade infection?
I only bring that up. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say I only brought that up because I was using a lot of that stuff for coverage, disguise, etc. before my transplant, and I think I mentioned when I had my FUT going in the day of, doctor touched my scalp, said felt kind of funny.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to nip my whole subderm issue, and I don't know if it's just my makeup, or it was the makeup that I used before surgery, or were grafts planted. It's really frustrating, man. I'm really, because I've been dealing with it for 4 years up now or so.
Yeah.
Just trying to nip the improving diet, all the good stuff to try to nip it in the bud. So that's why I brought up the hair in a can thing, since I was using it so much before my surgery. Maybe I didn't get a good cleanse before. I don't know, man. It's a guessing game.
Well, I think you've been, well, in the case I was talking about when we brought this up yesterday, it was a matter of the doctor at the time. He actually cleaned out a lot of the infection that he'd seen manually, which took a while. If you understand what I mean there.
Oh, wow.
He actually squeezed a lot of them out, and then it was just simply a little tube of Bactroban that was given to the patient just to apply to the affected areas daily, and that cleared it up.
So it was bacterial, not fungal.
Yeah, it was bacterial, and it comes down to simply scrubbing your scalp daily if you're using any sort of topical coverage like that, Dermatch or Topic, or makeup based or fiber based. And it was really bizarre, man. Like I saw this and I was just like, what in the actual F is this? Like, how does this even happen? And then he explained it to it, and it's like, SMH, like you leave it in for 5 days.
Oh, hell no. Yeah.
I
was scrubbing daily, but sorry. Yeah.
No. Well, if you're scrubbing daily, then you're fine. Like that wasn't the issue, and I think you can probably eliminate that as being a source of your problems. In your situation, if you still haven't found any sort of relief, maybe it's time to travel outside of your area, outside of New York, and maybe go see Dr. Cooley, or trying to think. I can't think of
Jersey, Connecticut, Mass, any of them. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, even Scott Bowden. I think he's a dermatologist up in Connecticut. Good guy, smart. He might be able to help you. But then there's like if you want to ask Dr. Cooley some questions, you do have the option of getting in touch with him through the traditional ways of just pick up the phone or email. But you got to go through the gatekeepers with the email and the phone. Or maybe just hop a plane, schedule a time to visit him, and where you get his attention in person. He doesn't have to use any guesswork. He can take he can take samples of something if he needs to. It's all right there in front of him. So maybe that's something to consider. It's up to you, obviously. So
yeah, sure.
Yeah. What else is new, man?
Nothing, man. I've been so level-headed about just dealing with it, but it's such a it takes me out of the game.
Yeah.
Hat on the head since the transplant, and trying not to be defeatist about it, and fucking knock the social life, knock the work life. It's hard, man. So it's just been sort of priority just to try to get back in the game, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry you're still dealing with it. I really am, but I applaud you for keeping a level head and keeping your head up, as it were. I can't imagine what it's like to deal with. I mean, I went through my own issues, but the solution was easy,
Yeah.
just forget about it for 9 years and then eventually get a repair job, So, and I dealt with it, it is what it is. But your situation is more complicated. So kudos to you for keeping your chin up on it. I don't know of a lot of people that could do that. And
yeah, for sure.
So it's being strong, man. That's what you got to be. You got to be strong and push forward. So good for you. Good for you.
My most recent attempt is I've been trying some diflucan prescription antifungal.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I'm trying it again for maybe a longer period of time, and we'll see how that goes. And then maybe come summer, I'll travel and check out some other doctors.
Yeah, well, it's a great drive to Charlotte anyway during the summer. Beautiful countryside. So maybe you can make a road trip out of it.
Awesome. Will do, man.
All right.
I don't want to take you away from other callers, and just thought I'd say what's up and appreciate the support regardless.
Always, buddy. And thank you. Thanks for calling.
You bet, man.
All right.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye. 1-833-563-4247. That's the number for the main event here on Thursday, April 6th, 2023. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Do me a favor, hit that like button. Got 10 likes so far. Could use the support. I am doing this solo, daily. You're watching the only daily hair loss show / podcast, live stream, whatever you want to call it. It's Monday through Thursday. And then every Friday, it's the one and only Spencer Coburn's The Bald Truth with me, Joe Tillman. And it will be here on the same time, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, and 10 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. I think that's 11 p.m. London time. I think it's plus one? Yeah, +1 GMT. Let's see what we got in the chat room. Let's see. Do people ever adapt to dutasteride? So initially they get sides, but the body adapts and they no longer get sides. Asking as when I first took Propecia, I got slight ache in the but this went away. I believe so. I'm drawing a blank on it. I never had any sides on it when I took it. I did initially on finasteride for a short period of time. It's like when you get kicked in the between the legs or whatever in basketball class. Bend down, pull the toes, and nothing since. I believe it's the same with dutasteride. And it's a matter of, if you want to get back on dutasteride, if you want to try that, there's the titration schedule that I've talked about before where you titrate up, where you take one, actually, I don't know how you're taking it before, but like when I talk about finasteride, I talk about titrating up, starting, if you want to try and avoid sides or find that sweet spot where you're taking just enough to where you're not getting sides, once a week for a month, then twice a week for a month, 3 times a week for a month, so on and so forth, and then find that balance. If you start getting sides, you can either push through and see if they go away with continued usage, or back off to the previous schedule and hold steady. They should go away and maintain there because that's your limit. That's your sweet spot. Highest rate of intake without getting side effects. Maybe try that with dutasteride as well. I'm not a doctor. It's just something that makes sense to me. It's something that I presented to a lot of people over the years, and they come back to me and say, yeah, that seems to have fixed it, where they just jumped onto it hardcore every day, and they got side effects. So just something to consider. Let's see, other questions. Guys, you got to give me some questions or I am going, because I got a lot of stuff to do. Got some videos to work on. Milk drinker, what are the relative strengths of the 3 Belgian docs? Bazanga, Mwamba, and Lupinzula. That's kind of easy, but I just want to make sure I cover my bases on this. The first thing I can say is they all do natural work. That's a strong point for all of them. And that's it. I mean, Mwamba seems to have just the perceived additional experience with, I say perceived because I don't know, I know Dr. Lupinzula doesn't use body hair very much. Dr. Bazanga, he likes the beard hair into the grafts, or beard hair into the strip donor scars. Mwamba seems to be using that a bit more based on what I'm seeing online. I haven't talked to him about this in a long time. I haven't talked to any of them about it in a while, but I'd say that the main strength that they all have is natural work. So, Neil, did you get my video on the Brett Maverick hair transplant? You know what's funny is, yeah, I'd seen it anyway. I almost decided to make that the subject for today, doing a live reaction video. And you know what's funny about that video, about the Brett Maverick result video, I think he's at 1 year. The first thing I noticed about that guy, you know, I mean, kudos to him. He's got over a million subs. That's great. But man, I have never seen someone so popular look so awkward on camera. It looks like he should be old hat at this. He should feel a bit more comfortable, but he just looks like he's so uncomfortable on camera. It's uncomfortable for me to watch him because, like in the intro of the video, he's like, "Woo! I got my hairline back, and boy, is it great!" It's like awkward just watching him. But beside that, you know, when you first watch him on this video, and these are just my general comments over glancing over the video today again, it looks great. Gotta admit, the hairline height looks good. The shape looks good. It's certainly dense. But then the shortcomings of YouTube video, of being in a live stream or in a recording, and not taking the steps to make sure that the resolution is of the highest quality. While I was looking at it, I actually had to click the resolution setting so that it would go from 720 to 1080p, and it helped. But still, he's a distance away, like probably the same distance I am from the camera. And you can't really see my hairline. You can see my hairline, but you can't see the hairline. You can't see the individuals. But then when he's actually doing this number and he's showing the actual hairline, oh my God, that looks bad. Really bad. And he's talking about how he doesn't know why they did this line of hairs in the front. And he even says, I don't know if it's supposed to be like some sort of transition. I don't know if he just came up with that on his own, or if he actually did some reading to where he read about transition zones. But no. I think the clinic was trying to do lower density just to have that transition. But it's a classic example of why you need microscopes, because almost every one of those hairs is at least a double, and there's a lot of poor growth, a lot of huge gaps. Some of the hairs are, you know, relatively close together, not dense packed, but you can tell that they're supposed to be where they are. But there are other areas where these huge gaps, and I even see some triples in his hairline. It's just like, ugh. And when you look at how he's showing that hairline, that's what people would see when they're talking to him, because, you know, the human eye face to face, as opposed to the camera, it picks up so much more. There's so much more depth, so much more detail, so much more realism in a real environment, where you just pick up on it. And yeah, it looks really bad. I feel bad for him. Ignorance is bliss, I guess. Like, he's happy with the shape, and he should be. Like, it's a nice height. And he even talks about not wanting to have gotten a low hairline, because he knows that as he gets older, the hairline that he has will look more age appropriate. I thought that was really insightful for someone that most likely didn't do any research. He thought about it. Maybe some people told him that that's a problem. He had some consultations with doctors that, you know, put this in his head, and he actually listened to that, and that's a good thing. It's still a little bit low, but he'll probably be fine. I mean, I don't know how old he is. I think he's like 24. Hopefully he's taking medication. I don't remember him saying that he is or is not, but it could be worse. I'll say that. It could be worse. The hairline itself, it looks terrible, but his overall long-term situation could be worse. I think ideally for him, the best thing to do would be to have those frontal grafts removed and then have a new hairline with only singles packed in front of the horrible work that's behind what he's got up there. So let's see who we got on the call. Right on. Well, it looks like they hung up. And call back. I'll put you on hold. 1-833-563-4247. That is 833-563-4247. Let's see if there's more questions. Yeah, Mike Pedroza, Brett has hair of the gods. Behind his transplant? Sure, but no, not in front of his transplant. Sergey wants to know, would you say Dr. Lorenzo implants at the highest density compared to other top doctors? No, I wouldn't. And I don't think he claims he does. I've not looked at his work in a long time. I've talked to Jose. I've not talked to Jose since June of last year. So it's been, 9 months since I've talked to him. And we don't talk hair when we run into each other. We just BS with each other. He's a fun guy. But I don't think he's ever claimed to be packing grafts at a really high density. I haven't looked at his website. Is he? Like, you tell me. Is he making claims about really high density? In general, I think his density has always been acceptable. Like, one pass density has been pretty acceptable, but it's actually rare that you see one pass results on him, because most of the results, again, earlier on, were before and after, with the after being like 2 surgeries or 3 surgeries where he's doing these, these massive transformations. Remember, he was the OG huge FUE transformation doctor back in the mid 2000s, before Zarev, before anyone. He was the first one to show these 9,000, 10,000 graft cases. And yeah, I remember talking about that. That's funny. But yeah, he's the OG on that. So density, it's good. Can't say it's any higher than everyone else. It's higher than the average doctors today, for sure. Let's see. Michael Leedy, regarding hair density. I notice in many cases the front top of the head has great density, but those folks are not so dense in the crown as in the swirl area. Yeah. Is there a reason for this? Yes, there is a reason for that, and that's a fantastic question. I'm glad you asked. The reason for that is because, in my own case, all right, I'll just use my own case. I've had 10 hair transplants. 7 of them were actually designed to put more hair on my head, but not all of them moved a lot of hair in my head. That's just to let you know, I didn't have like 7 hair transplants or 10 hair transplants moving 500 or 5,000 grafts each. It wasn't anything like that. But I was completely bald except for 300 mini grafts that were sticking out the front of my head, and 2,400 grafts, 2,400 grafts, 2,500 grafts, and then that was on top of 2 bad surgeries before, and then another 1,400, and then another 800. Anyway, I got around 11,000 grafts, 10 to 11,000 grafts. The front, right here, is 55 per square centimeter in the very frontal hairline, like right in here. The first half centimeter or so in there, all the way around, are about 55. In the back, nowhere near that. You can actually go to my website, hairtransplantmentor.com. You can go click on hair transplants, and there's most of my journey. I'm looking at myself now. Yeah, it's not completely covered up, but you can see the coverage there. The density is about half in my crown. And the reason being is it's easier to get coverage in the crown where you're just laying on top of each other, and you don't need to worry so much about density because the hair is not being lifted up like it is in the hairline, right? So when you're doing density in the front, it's because that's what people see. That's what you see in the mirror, and that gives you the biggest aesthetic benefit. And then there's a degradation of density as you move towards the back because if you're doing a decent density in the front, it's very rare, and I don't want to say impossible or never happens, but it's very rare that there's enough donor hair to meet the demand of equalizing that density in the back as you got in the front. It can happen. I think it has happened where there's been some really nice high density front to back cases, but those are exceedingly rare. They weren't done on high Norwood cases like myself, but there's a couple out there. In general, don't expect that to happen to you if you have aggressive loss in your future, but it's literally coming down to a supply versus demand challenge. That's why. And so the question becomes, how do you distribute a limited resource over a large area to get the biggest aesthetic impact, cosmetic improvement? And that's how. Density in the front, less in the back, coverage throughout. Hope that answers your question. David Anthony, thank you for joining us. Before I get to this question, well, I'll read the question out. What are the physical/biological characteristics of a hair follicle that make it sensitive to DHT compared to a follicle that's resistant? Before I answer that question, we got 13 likes on this broadcast. I want to see 17 likes before I answer this question. We're, 37 minutes into the broadcast, and I did start on time at 3 o'clock, by the way, so I should get points for that. And I'm doing this weekly or daily now, Monday through Thursday, so I want the support, guys. I want to see, okay, there's 2 more. I need 2 more likes. There's 16. All right, 1 more, and I will answer that question. Like, this is a two-way street, guys. Like, I don't charge anything. I'm not making any money on this, but all I ask for is the likes. All right, so we got a call. Putting you on hold. Hold on just a second, okay? All right. So, and there we go. Okay, so I will answer that question. So it basically comes down to the receptors and the genetic predisposition of a particular individual, where those follicles genetically are programmed to have the receptors that are that attract that DHT molecule, and that acts as a strangulation of that follicle. Not getting into the real mechanics of that, but that's basically it. I mean, that's in a nutshell. And it's a bummer, man. I mean, some people have that genetic predisposition, some people don't. I certainly did. My younger brother kind of does, but a lot less than I do. But that's about it, and that's what we got the medications for, to kind of help interrupt that process. So, all right, we're going to go to the call. Thank you for holding. What's your name, and where are you calling from?
This is Dr. Ken Anderson calling from Atlanta.
Dr. Ken, man, how you doing, buddy?
Good, man. How are you? I'm watching your show. You're doing a great job, man. I really
Thank you.
I think you're doing a lot of good for a lot of patients.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the support, and great to have you here. Everyone, we got IAHRS accepted member Dr. Ken Anderson out of Atlanta, Georgia. Proud to know the guy. I think he's one of the nicer guys out there, and he's certainly a really good hair restoration physician. What can I help you with, Doc? What's going on?
Well, I was just I was listening to your answer about the density from in the crown versus the frontal hairline. And, a patient asked me about this today.
Oh, really?
And I don't know. I thought I'd call and just chat about it with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hear it. What's your variation on that discussion?
Well, I think thinning hair tends to be more noticed in the crown. If you put the same amount of density in the front as you did the crown would still hair. Private to my patients, there's really 2 reasons for this. One is the shape of the skull. When you're looking at someone, face on, the frontal hairline is kind of on top of the head, if you will, and so the hairs kind of line up, and it's like you're standing beside a forest, and all the trees line up, and it covers a lot of scalp. If you look on the back and the crown, that tends to be in the sort of the back slope of the skull. It's kind of like you're taking a helicopter above the forest and looking down at the forest floor. You can see more of the forest floor because the trees aren't exactly lining up. So that's one reason. The other reason is the direction of the hairs. And the frontal hairline, unless there's a real major cowlick, the hairs generally flow in the same direction, and kind of like a thatched roof, they kind of pile on top of each other and kind of, work together to create more scalp coverage. But in the crown, you've got that swirl. There's kind of like a mutiny back there, Some of the hairs are going, I don't like you, I'm going north. The other guy's like, well, screw you, I'm going south. And so because you're kind of looking at the origin of the swirl, it's kind of like taking broadloom carpet and kind of bending it over your knee. You can kind of see the little grid underneath, and it exposes the scalp a little bit more. So those are two good reasons. And finally, a lot of hair restoration surgeons place more emphasis on framing the face, because I call it, with my patients, I call it the dinner table look. If you're sitting at a table of 4 and you're looking at the 2 people to your left and right, the other people can only see you from certain angles. And so that's where you're going to get the most sort of cosmetic benefit from a hair restoration, is making sure the temporal points are framing the face from the sides, and you got a nice hairline. And that's kind of, the hairline is really a cosmetic subunit of the face itself. And so a premium is placed on making sure that, where people see you from sort of the front 3/4 view is going to be nicely framed with hair. And because it's a normal pattern to have a little bit of a spot in the back, but a strong frontal hairline, a lot of us kind of will, place a priority on framing the face, and with what's left over, try to make the crown smaller or get, less coverage, but some coverage in the crown. So those are my thoughts on that subject. Anyway, I'm really liking your new show, and big fan, and I've been watching the last couple of days. I think you've been doing some really great interviews.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I just need to get my audio issues worked out. It's a real headache. Not a sound engineer. It's one of the few things I'm not really proficient in, but I'll figure it out eventually. The good thing is I don't have to worry about it tomorrow, because Spencer's got it handled on his end every Friday. So that's my relief, is not having to deal with it on Fridays.
Oh yeah, no, he's a pro, man. I was in his studios, as you know, a couple of weeks ago for the show, and he's got a huge setup, and it's funny. He always, he knows exactly which buttons to press, and he makes it look so easy.
No, of course he does. I learned long ago that dealing with stuff on my end is not easy. Even the beginning was when I started working with him at first several years ago. I still had a hard time, even though he was guiding me, because I'm still over here trying. It's like, wait, what does that even mean? I got to press what button that does what? And it's like, I'm a little bit better at it now, but still got more to go. But yeah, it's fantastic. Great hearing from you, Doc. You got anything else you want to contribute? You want to share? With the audience? I do
actually. You know what? I will tell you. I've been a hair restoration surgeon for 20 years. I'm a facial plastic surgeon by training, but I've dedicated my career entirely to hair restoration starting in 2003. Mm-hmm. And the number one thing that frustrates me and a lot of my patients is the lack of understanding of the importance of prevention.
Oh yeah,
we may have covered this previously, but oh my goodness, I ask every patient, who comes in for surgery in the morning, usually doing a couple of cases a day, but in any case, I ask them as I'm taking their before photographs in the studio. I'll say, okay, because we review this extensively at the consultation appointment. I'll say, what are you doing to prevent hair loss?
Yeah.
And the patients that worry me the most are the ones that say, well, doc, I'm getting this done today. And I'm like, man, the message has been missed. This is not getting a hair transplant surgery does not take care of your hair loss problem. More hair loss is always coming. And so every single consultation that we begin with prevention, what are you doing? Making sure you're using more than one modality and understanding the chronic, lifelong nature of hair loss.
Well, what do you think we've been saying on the show every Friday for so many years? Surgery is the last resort, because you got to stop. You got to do everything you can to prevent more loss first, to stabilize, to potentially reverse some of it, depending on the treatment that you choose and your response curve to that. There's so many patients that I've counseled. When I was in clinic, then as I transitioned into this independent position 9 years ago, that have decided they don't want surgery because their turnaround through non-surgical means was so effective, it no longer bothered them. And if that happens for someone, that is saving them such a potential heartache that they can't get past through the manifestation of a bad result, bad scarring, just not being generally happy with it for whatever reason. I mean, you know just as well as I do that there can be all kinds of reasons that a patient decides, whether it's justified or not, that they're unhappy with the result. Patients don't want to go through that. They shouldn't have to go through that. And that's what I've always been saying. That's what Spencer's always been saying. Surgery's the last resort. Medication first, at least a year, just to see what you're getting out of it. Throw the kitchen sink at it before you have the surgery.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I tell my patients, my ethical limit, there are ethics in this. My ethical limit in terms of anything in the frontal hairline, the patient has to be 25 years of age and have exhausted medical therapy for at least 12 months. And a lot of patients, I saw a 24-year-old man today, and I'm like, we're not doing surgery on you. In the crown, my limit is 35 years of age. You got to be 35 years before I'm going to go into a crown, because you don't know how much hair loss is coming. And like for instance, today I had a 30-year-old with crown loss. I'm in Atlanta, so he was kind of a country guy. Mm-hmm. I said, he wasn't doing any prevention. I think he was a 3 vertex or 3V. Mm-hmm. In any case, I outlined with him, all the various things, the finasteride, the minoxidil, PRP procedures and so forth to prevent hair loss. And I said to him, he said, gave me a look like, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. And I told him, I said, if you're not really, committed to preventing hair loss for the rest of your life with, whatever is available, there may be something else coming in 10 or 15 years, but for now in 2023, this is what we got. If you're not committed to daily attention to this problem, you may reconsider, having a hair transplant, especially at your age, you've got decades to live, is probably not a good idea. Yeah. And I think you should reconsider that and just, because it's going to take daily attention to the issue if you're, planning on having a transplant, or else 15, 20 years from now, you may be very unhappy that you had a transplant.
And that's the one thing. That's the one thing he wasn't expecting, was to walk into your clinic and instead of getting a quote for how much it's going to cost, was for you to say, "Don't think so. Thanks for coming."
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. He's like, "Well, I've had two other consults, and I'm not going to name the clinics. We're not here for that." Mm-hmm. But he said they tried to sign me up for surgery right away. I said, I'm not surprised. Yeah, I'm not surprised at that at all. This is kind of, unfortunately, there are doctors who either intentionally or because they're just ignorant of the issues. A lot of doctors have jumped into hair transplant surgery over the last 10 years, and quite frankly, a majority of the providers now, it's the side gig. Mm-hmm. They're doing it, in addition to their, breast practice or Brazilian butt lifts or whatever they're doing. Oh, yeah. They're not really dedicated hair transplant surgeons, and they don't go to the meetings. They don't, they learn off YouTube. They're not really, there may not be up on the thinking that, hair loss is forever, and it needs to be a global plan that, that lasts a lifetime. And it's definitely not a quick fix. But unfortunately, some doctors aren't seeing it that way, and they're going to try to take the money and run. And it's unfortunate, because you see those patients later in life, and they've got low hairlines, and they've got a lot, and they just, their hair doesn't fit a pattern that's found in nature, and they're unhappy they ever did it in the first place. And it can create a lot of personal problems for these patients. Well,
the problem with, I see in North America in general is the fact that, what you're talking about, where it's offered alongside of, butt lifts and breast augmentation, things like that. It's a mentality that those types of clinics have, where they're just not even taking it seriously as the nuanced surgery that it is, where it is literally added to their menu as a line item, next to so many other procedures that they can have. And that's how it's sold to them, primarily by the device makers, where they come in and they have their PowerPoint presentations and the lunch meetings that's on their dime. Come out to the Hilton whatever conference area we're hosting this. this presentation. Lunch is on us. And they talk about adding this to their practice, and it's always the ROI. They'll have a doctor come in that has the experience using it, and it's all about the ROI and the benefit of having the technicians provided by the device manufacturer come in and take care of the surgery for them, so that the doctor can spend time consulting for other procedures or staying in the OR to finish a rhinoplasty or what have you. I've heard the recordings. Doc,
yeah.
I had a recording sent to me.
It's all true.
Had a recording sent to me of a doctor in Dallas. She was on the, I guess you could call it the sales list of the device manufacturer as a doctor to pull in for these seminars. And she was doing this. She was doing this online. It was an online seminar during one of her surgeries, and she wasn't even garbed up. She was just the technicians that came in to do the procedure. They're the ones that were suited up for surgery. She just had her mask, and once it was done, she went back into her Zoom room or whatever she was using for the presentation, and continued to talk about the benefits. There's nothing talking about the artistry. There's nothing talking about long-term patient care, follow-up, preventative maintenance with the medication. None of that. And it's everywhere. It's down the street from you. It's down. There's probably 10 clinics within, relatively speaking, a rock's throw distance that are doing the exact same thing. And it's getting worse. Everyone points to Turkey as being the big bad devil in this industry. That's not even an issue for most clinics in North America. It's the dentist that decided to become a hair transplant, or it's the med spa that offers tummy tucks while you're having a hair transplant. That kind of thing. So we got a lot of work to do, man. Trying to educate people. So I appreciate you being out there in the trenches. Doing your thing. Preaching, the conservative approach and the sensible approach, like you do, and all I can say is keep it up.
I think it's also an ethical approach. The doctors who buy these devices, the company sends them to a 1-day course. Yeah, and I've had the ARTIS robot. We for a majority of the cases I'm using the WA device or sometimes the NeoGraft, but. For a minority of cases, we use the robot, but they're trying to sell these robots to anybody with a medical license. And for about 5 or 6 years there, I was the doctor to whom they sent these people who bought the ARTIS robot. So I'm giving these classes, to an internet, mainly doctors from North America. And you've got, some dermatologists, but you've got med spa owners, you've got plastic surgeons, you've got physical medicine and rehabilitation doctors who literally know nothing about hair transplant surgery. And they're coming to I've got a, set up to teach doctors. I like doing that, so that we have doctors in and they are sit for my, quote, 1-day course. And my main message to them, and Spencer asked me, he's like, well, why are you doing that? I'm like, well, if it's not me, it's going to be somebody, and it might as well be somebody who's going to give them the proper message. And I harp on these doctors. I'm like, listen, you cannot learn a medical specialty in 1 day. I said, this is a laughably brief overview of what you need to know to ethically treat patients with hair loss. And, I promote, the ISHRS and going to meetings, getting a proper education. And I stress that this 1-day course is, not going to cut it. This is not nearly enough. This is a day course. But I have to think that, some of them get the 1-day course and then just go out and wing it, which is, disappointing, to say the least.
Yeah. Well said. All right, Doc. Well, I appreciate you calling in. It's always great to hear from you, and I'm sure there's some nuggets of wisdom there for the listening audience to take home and digest, as always. Sure, great hearing from you.
Good luck with the show. I'm a big fan. I'll be tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon, man. Call me anytime.
All right. Appreciate it, Dr. Ken. Dr. Ken Anderson from Atlanta, Georgia, IHRS accepted member. Thanks for calling. We'll talk to you later.
You got it, bud. Be well.
Bye-bye. 833-563-4247. The number is 833-563-4247. Appreciate everyone tuning in. That was Dr. Ken Anderson IHRS accepted member. He was actually in studio with Spencer Coburn on The Bald Truth a couple weeks ago. I think it was like 3 weeks ago. I think it was about 3 weeks ago. Always fun to have him on the air. Got another call here, so let's see who this is. All right, you're on. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey there, Joe. This is John from Palm Springs.
John from Palm Springs. Thanks for calling, John. What can I help you with?
Hey, I was looking at getting set up with a hair transplant and Hassan and Long.
Mm-hmm.
And
I've heard of them.
Yeah. So my question is I have a couple. I'm sorry. The first question is I was actually thinking of driving there. Is this a wise idea or no?
From Palm Springs?
Yes.
How much time do you have to waste? Because it's a fun drive. It's a beautiful drive.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, it is.
That's why I was interested.
I made that drive.
Oh, cool.
A long time, like 20 years ago, I made that drive, and it was actually when I moved to Seattle. I'd come, not through Palm Springs, but I'd gone across, Highway 10 or Interstate 10 to Bakersfield, and then caught I-5 North.
Yep.
And
Yep, I'm familiar with that.
Just wonderful drive. And, of course, Vancouver is only 3 hours north of Seattle. So, yeah, I mean, if you got the time and you've never been on that drive before, either going up I-5 or some other route, that's even going up, like going up through Vegas and then up through into Idaho and Iowa, was it Idaho? Yeah, Idaho, and then over on 90. That's a beautiful drive as well through Montana.
Cool.
Yeah, you got options.
So ultimately my question on that is, after I would do this procedure, I wouldn't want to drive afterwards, correct?
You know, it's a good question. If you got the time, stay in the city for a couple of days. Here's what I used to tell patients when they would fly in. I would tell them that if you're going to fly in and you want to know when the best time is to go home, I would tell people to either leave the next day, schedule your flight to leave the next afternoon so you can come back in the clinic and have a hair wash, or stay a full week. Don't stay 2 days, don't stay 3 days, because if you're one of those patients where your forehead starts to swell up so bad that one eye closes, God forbid both eyes close, that'll happen between day 3 and day 6. Usually it'll peak on day 3 and be gone by the end of day 6, or gone enough to where it doesn't draw attention to your person. And that's what I'd be talking about when people would want to fly. If you want to drive, you actually have more freedom, because you can be swollen up, and that's fine. It doesn't affect your driving.
Right.
You'll probably be fine physically, as far as you won't be in too much pain. But I would make sure that you got enough time to where if you do wind up having post-op issues, discomfort, I'll say, then you can find a hotel and pull over and stay for a couple of nights to continue your recovery. That's probably the best thing to do if you were to try and drive.
Okay. Yeah, I have somebody offering to drive me back. So
well, in that case,
I figure I'll just relax and enjoy the ride back, but I'll drive the way there.
In that case, it's a no-brainer. Enjoy the drive.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. I was kind of hesitant on making that decision, so my family wanted to really go and watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
They wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah. Which doctor are you considering, Dr. Wong or Dr. Hassan?
Wong.
Yeah. That's good.
And I've talked to you before over email. You've seen pictures of me, but I'm a 5A, so
okay.
I have a lot of groundwork to figure out. Well, I'm starting small.
If you're a 5A, at least you don't have to worry about the crown too much, because that's when the distribution starts to get a little thin. When you got to work on the crown. So the best results are 5As and less on the Norwood scale.
correct me if I'm wrong. It's when it goes further down the back of the crown that's called a horseshoe. Is that correct?
The horseshoe is usually referring to like just a Norwood 6 where the entire top is gone and you got this horseshoe outline of hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's usually what that's referring to. Some people may have a different interpretation of that, but that's the generally accepted interpretation of what it means to have a horseshoe.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I don't have, and I've been kind of watching, and I don't really have that forming.
Yeah.
And talking to the person, the rep from, he said he didn't really see it
Was that Doug?
from his experience.
Was that Douglas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Doug. Yeah. Yeah, he's got a lot of experience. He actually started at Hasselong 1 year before I did.
Wow. Nice guy.
Yep. Yeah, very very nice guy. You're in good hands.
Well, thank you. Last question is so I started developing a trying to think of varicose vein. Is that going to be a problem with the procedure?
No.
Do you know in your experience?
Shouldn't be.
Okay. I didn't know if blood flow had anything to do with that whole thing, and that was just kind of my. Now, to get even more specific, it's actually kind of in the unmentionable area. So my question is, do you know if finasteride would have anything to do with that in your experience?
I've never heard that as a side effect. Never,
Okay, perfect.
It's
That's
never
all.
come up. It's never come up.
Okay. Okay.
I I'm not a doctor, but that shouldn't have any sort of effect on the surgery, the outcome, or the
figured.
result. But if you if you want, I mean, it doesn't hurt to bring it up. You can always bring it up.
Yeah.
And
that's what I was going to actually ask about.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask today about it.
yeah, that's fine.
And yeah, it was only because they say it's a very rare thing to happen, and I just figure I'd ask about it because I'm going. I mean, it threw me for a loop because I'm going, oh shoot, do I have cancer?
Yeah, no, that's not an indication of that. So I can understand why you'd be concerned, but I don't think you have anything to be concerned about. But talk to your doctor about it, like not just Dr. Wong. Like, call up your doctor and say, Doc, what's going on? I got this bulging thing going on where it shouldn't be going on.
Yeah, well, I talked to my GP and he said everything. It's a very rare thing, and he didn't even mention. And of course, he prescribed me finasteride, so we didn't even talk about that. He didn't even come to the conclusion of that. So,
Yeah.
Then I just kind of thought about it
Okay.
after talking to Hassan along, going, "Oh, should I mention this?" And I thought, "Yeah, I'm going to bring this up." And then I decided to. I didn't realize you're on every day, so I just decided to keep you asking about it.
Not a problem. I'm easily accessible at this point, so ask away. That's fine. Call me anytime.
Awesome. Well, I think that's it. I really appreciate you taking my questions.
Yeah, happy to. Call anytime.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks for calling, buddy.
Bye.
Bye-bye. 1-833-563-4247. That's 1-833-563-4247. It is a toll-free call in North America. You can probably reach me from any country via Skype if you've got your account charged with any sort of funds. We've got another call here. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on with Joe, the main event. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Hello?
Hey, Joe.
Hey, can you turn down your computer in the background?
Sure thing.
Yeah, get a little feedback there, a little echo.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah, that's better. What's your name?
My name is Andre. I'm calling from Romania. I was on your chat, live chat.
Oh, okay.
2 days ago and last night.
Awesome. Thanks for calling, Andre.
And I've been watching your channel for a long time now. I think I was around 17 when I started watching 18, somewhere. And
wow, how old are you now?
I discovered you. I'm 24.
Okay.
And I called mostly because it's not really a transplant question that I got.
Mm-hmm.
More like about 5A inhibitors, such as finasteride, dutasteride, things of that nature.
Yep.
So, can I go a little bit in the past? If that's okay, like with my whole.
Well, I don't want to hear
issue?
about primary school. That's a little far, but if you go back a couple years, that's fine.
Sure. No, but mostly
Sorry, it's a bad joke.
I started losing
No, go ahead. What's up?
I started losing my hair. Around 15, and by the time I was 18, I was a normal too.
Okay.
And I didn't notice it then, but I'm noticing it now. Obviously. So at around 20, I started taking finasteride, and I started taking like 2.5 milligrams instead. So I was just cutting the Proscar pill in two, and I've been doing that for almost 4 years now. And my question is that I kind of want to go on dutasteride. I've been on dutasteride before, and I can say that I had no side effects on neither of them. No finasteride, no from finasteride, no from dutasteride. But I heard from some people, dutasteride can cause even more hair loss because it increases your testosterone, I guess. Hang
on. Dutasteride can cause more hair loss because it increases testosterone. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think that's valid, only because it's basically setting up a loop of your situation. Because let me try to articulate this. Your hair loss is being affected by dihydrotestosterone being created by 5-alpha reductase enzymes interacting with testosterone, breaking it down into DHT. Dutasteride, finasteride get in between, just for descriptions, get in between that process and prevents the majority of that DHT formation from occurring in the first place. Reduces it by, depending on which medication you're taking, between 65 and 90%. So because of that, you wind up having more free-flowing testosterone in your system. But then you're saying that in and of itself causes more hair loss. But what you need to understand is that's not the case, because that testosterone is not being converted into DHT. That you understand the?
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm just making sure I understood you correctly, and that's why that wouldn't really be the case.
Yeah, I know about that, but the thing is that because I started losing it so early, like in my mid-teens, I'm thinking that maybe my follicles are very sensitive to all of the androgens. Well, mainly I would say DHT and testosterone. So it kind of I don't know how to really make of it. Right now I'm a normal 3.
And you're 24?
I'm 24, yeah.
Okay.
That's great.
Well, so you're thinking about switching back to dutasteride. Why did you go on to dutasteride, and why did you get off of dutasteride? Is it because you're afraid of losing more hair?
Actually, yeah. I had first time I tried it, and I think it was 3 years ago or 2 years ago. One of my testicles really hurt, but then then I stopped it out of fear because of that, and then out of fear because I'm going to lose my hair, I went back on it, and no side effects from it. This was the only side effect I ever had from a 5A inhibitor. I mean, I only take these two, but after that, I went back on it, and I started Googling results on dutasteride versus finasteride, and then I saw that some people can have an increase of hair loss.
How long were you on dutasteride before you got off of it?
Oh, I was probably for about a month.
Okay, fair enough. Let me just stop you before you continue. I think that when you're switching, when you're dealing with different medications, like you're reading about one medication being better than the other that you're already taking, and you switch to it, and then you switch back after a month because you're afraid of something that hasn't actually happened yet, because of what you've been reading. I think that's I think that's a dangerous area to allow yourself to get into, because you're letting things that haven't happened to you affect your decisions on things that can affect you long term, being hair loss. I'm very cautious about these kinds of things, because I believe that when you've found something that works, you stick to it. You ignore the potential for a little bit better results on something else, because anytime you're switching, we talked about this last night, yesterday with Dr. Cooley. My view on this is that when you're switching from one treatment to another, you're always risking, because they work differently, and assuming that, in your case, the dutasteride might be working better, it means that it's causing an increased reduction. It's kind of contradictory. It's causing a higher reduction of DHT than finasteride. So it's only logical to me that you could induce a telogen effluvium, minor or major, through that transition if you do it cold turkey. That's why I always talk about titration, easing out of one and easing into another. You were only on it for a month. You didn't have any issues other than the one side effect you mentioned. You didn't have any issues with hair loss. I don't think that there was an issue going back to finasteride, but my opinion is that you probably should have, going back and forth isn't a good idea. So once you make that switch, if you're not seeing the side effect that you're most fearing after a month, I think it's pretty safe to say that you're okay. Because it's rare, I don't want to say impossible, but it's rare that I've seen such side effects manifest after a month. That's usually roughly my cutoff when you can expect side effects. I don't expect to see someone having side effects 6 months on finasteride or dutasteride after they started taking it. I've heard people talk about it, that it's happened to them, but I question those situations. I don't know all the details, but I question those claims, because I've not seen it in my experience with patients I've dealt with, unless they actually have shown me. There have been cases where they said, yeah, it's just like it manifested 6 months later, or whatever, 8 months later, but then to find out, they did actually do something different that could have influenced that. So not a fan of that, but you've done it. You're back on finasteride, and now you're considering going back on dutasteride, and you're afraid of the hair loss.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
I have both of them right here.
Yeah, and you think
I can start tomorrow.
And you think that dutasteride is going to be that much better. How are you dealing with finasteride today? How is it benefiting you? You're not having side effects. You had the sore ball syndrome for a bit. That's gone away. Is it maintaining your hair as it is, or are you still losing?
I believe it does, but it's kind of tricky, because I kind of been lazy. When I first started, my first medication was minoxidil, and I almost went back on Norwood. So I was probably almost on Norwood 1.5, I would say, from minoxidil, and then I got lazy on it, because applying it twice a day, sometimes it takes 4 hours.
The old complacency factor. Yeah, I get it. I understand.
Yeah, so I wanted to go on oral minoxidil, and here is actually a very common thing of drinking minoxidil.
Yeah.
Like the topic, because we don't have Lonatan.
Yeah.
Which is very odd, because I can find generic finasteride. I can't find generic dutasteride. I only find Proscar and Avodart.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only things that I find.
Just out of curiosity, what does that cost you for Avodart, brand name Avodart in Romania?
What does that cost?
What's the cost? Yeah, for 30 capsules.
Oh, probably I I don't know per capsule, but I can see like a box of it, which can last you a month.
Mm-hmm.
It's around €7.
How many?
€7.
€7.
I don't know. Yeah, $8, something like that. It's cheap with finasteride as well. Here if you go,
that's a smoking deal. That's cheap. Yeah.
Yeah, they're cheap, and also you don't need a prescription for it, because there are a lot of friends that I made online that are from Hungary or Bulgaria, from the surroundings, and they travel here to get their medication.
I was going to say,
so they get it from.
Next time I go to Italy, I'll hop a short flight to Romania. I'll grab a couple of cases of this stuff, and then I'll sell it at a profit. You guys sign up. Send me an email if you want some. That's a hell of a deal. Okay, so you're 24 now. You're holding steady with finasteride. You think it's pretty good. You can't get oral minoxidil, which is what I was thinking in the back of my mind. Well, maybe you should try that. You want to consider dutasteride because you're hoping to get some sort of improvement, not just maintenance.
Probably, yeah. I'm also thinking maybe I can get a little bit of regrowth from dutasteride, but I kind of doubt it that it's going to happen. I don't know.
Well, then why would you want to switch with it if you're maintaining with finasteride and you don't think that you'll get? What's that?
Like I said, it's kind of the fear. It's kind of the fear of I didn't know if it's hard to tell because I went on minoxidil first, and I've been kind of lazy with it, and I heard that minoxidil can stop working, and all of these theories that you can find online, and I'm still applying. Right now, I have minoxidil on my head.
Yeah. Look, I think I understand where you're coming from, but let's get to the crux of this. I think that your concerns are valid. Like, I understand, like everyone has fears about this. I still have, been doing this for as long as I've been doing it. I still, question, do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? And then I always stop myself because I'm just lazy. I don't like adding additional treatments. I have a hard time doing things every day or every other day, depending on how I've decided my schedule is going to be for my intake. But, never let fear of something trump the facts of what you're actually experiencing. You're not experiencing hair loss per se. I mean, maybe a little bit. Like you said, you're maintaining. That's what you want. Like you win if you're maintaining. That's it. If you don't think that dutasteride is going to do anything better, then don't bother. If you are afraid of something happening in the future, don't be afraid because you can't control it. Maintain where you are. Don't experiment. Don't try new things out of fear of what may happen on what you're doing now. If you start to deal with something that you're not dealing with now on finasteride, then cross that bridge when you get to it. Because when you let fear about something that's not happening or won't happen because you're not trying another medication guide your plan, then there's a good chance that you could screw things up. The last thing you want to do is to make a change based out of fear, not based out of something that's actually happening, only to find out that you had it really good, that you shouldn't have changed, that you screwed up. I've seen cases like that. I've talked to a lot of people that have done exactly that.
And it's actually what happened when for 2 years I knew about finasteride, but I was so afraid of the side effects that I didn't want to take it until one day, and I said, I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
I can't lose my hair.
Yeah.
And nothing happened. There was not even a placebo. Like, nothing happened. There was no side effect. I had nothing. So
I stress to you. I understand. Look, it's good to know your options for sure. But
now I'm taking it every day.
Yeah.
So
and there has to come a time when you say to yourself, enough is enough. You you owe it to yourself to be aware of your options, just in case. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's a good plan, but don't let the fear of something that hasn't happened dictate how you move forward. What's that? Repeat that. Are you still there? I think we just lost the connection.
I can hear you.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
What's going on? Hang on. I don't know. I'm still on the call. But
I hear you.
it's
Now you can't hear me.
I'll just hang up if it's and thank you. Thanks a lot, Joe, for everything. And but I'll hear the live video and I'll see what you told me.
You don't hear me now?
I can't hear you anymore. I don't know what's going on. Honestly.
Okay.
And I called like a few months ago and everything was all right. You probably can't hear me, but I can hear you. I still can't hear you.
I can hear you, but that's fine. I'm going to hang up now. All right, not sure what was going on there, but the number is 833-563-4247. Again, it's 1-833-563-4247. We're live in Vancouver, British Columbia. This is the main event with Joe Tillman. Taking your calls. I'll answer some questions in the chat if I don't get any calls. I'm here till 5, but I might actually be cutting out because of something going on outside of my studio I need to attend to. But like I said, I just wanted to make sure I went live today because I made that commitment to you guys going live daily, Monday through Thursday, whereas Spencer Coburn's The Bald Truth with me, Joe Tillman, is on Fridays. So you get 5 days of hair loss and hair restoration information that you can't get anywhere else. So I hope you guys appreciate that. In fact, prove it, show me, hit the like button. I'm here talking to you guys, answering your questions, which is fun for me. I do enjoy it. I do enjoy the interaction. I enjoy it on Fridays on The Bald Truth. I'm enjoying it now on the main event. But yeah, could appreciate the support. Hit that like button. What else we got going on in the chat room? Andre, yeah, cut off for whatever reason. Might be because I'm calling from Europe, maybe. Yeah, I don't know why, buddy. I could hear you just fine, but that's fine. You can call again some other time. Who we got? Look for questions. Broderbond 60. Yeah, so sad to hear a hair loss testimonial at age 15. Could it be an environmental cause? Living near a uranium mine? Well, if he did, then maybe that does have something to do with it, but I'm not going to assume he does. It's funny though. Milk drinker. What's the biggest transplant you've ever seen? It's a good question. Kind of a simple question. Biggest one I've ever seen. Well, it depends. In one day or over the course of 3 weeks, because both of those are surgeries I've seen. The largest one-day surgery I've ever seen was a strip case by Dr. Hassan. It was 9,000 grafts and change. It was on a Spaniard, and I wasn't surprised because Spaniards have typically, on average, have denser donor areas and more hairs per follicle than the average European, than a lot of people on the planet, actually. There are other nationalities that have genetically similar type of characteristics, but yeah, he was a Spaniard, good, fantastic laxity. It was a huge strip that was taken out. He's on the Hasselong website. I took the photos of the patient when I was in Europe on a trip. He came to see me for doing consultations and follow-ups, and fantastic result, beautiful. The largest ever I've seen was a case that was 27,000 grafts on a Norwood 6. I'm going to repeat that because I know some of you are like, what did he just say? The largest case I've ever seen was 27,000 grafts, and it took 3 weeks to perform the procedure. It was FUE, obviously, and it involved a lot of body hair. It was 3,000 scalp hair grafts, and then the rest were beard and body hair grafts, including chest, back, pubic, and it was on a Norwood 6 virgin scalp. I'll never forget this. One of the nicest guys I'd ever met as in a consultant capacity. Really nice guy, very humble, but he was humbled partially for a reason, because the result looked horrendous. I felt so bad for this guy. He had a good attitude about it. He came to see me, came to see the doctors about it, wanted our opinion on it, wanted to know if he could be helped, and there was nothing that could be done for him. The crime of that case, this is a long time ago, by the way. This wasn't anytime recent. This was maybe 15 years ago. Longer. Maybe 15 years, 15, 16. The crime of this case was he was a virgin scalp, and he had beautiful donor hair. And 2 strips would have been phenomenal for him. It would have looked a lot better. Scalp hair is king. It would have matched the rest of his hair. It would have been a beautiful hair transplant, assuming all the factors of consistency are considered. But yeah, I'm speaking slowly because I'm just thinking about this case. It's been a long time since I thought about it, but it does stand out easily. 27,000 grafts. His hair was very fuzzy, frizzy. It had been over a year. I think it had been 18 months since he had his last day in the chair, and he told me the pain was excruciating, because injections into his body every day for anesthesia. It was harsh. So yeah, there you go. 27,000 grafts, not one surgery, but one session, which was 3 weeks broken up every day. He got the weekends off, but he had to go back. So it was a 15-day procedure. Yeah. Does he have photos anywhere? There were photos, but they were taken down. A lot of controversy on that. I won't get into that because I know the patient wouldn't want to have that discussed online, but that's all I can share. Yeah, it was a bad outcome. Aesthetically, he wasn't happy. And by the way, my estimate of what actually grew was maybe a third of the grafts, which means that about 9,000 grafts grew. But the problem when you're dealing with that much body hair in a hair transplant is when it grows out, it looks like body hair. So there you go. What else we got? Harsha Rao, are you guys going to be on live tomorrow? Yes, Spencer and I believe, unless something's come up, but I believe we'll be live tomorrow at 3 o'clock, normal time. So it's now, was it 4:29, and no calls, no questions. I'm going to be wrapping up here. So with that said, yeah, I think I need to go anyway. So I do appreciate everyone tuning in. Thank you so much for the calls. Great calls today. Thank you so much for the questions in the chat room. I appreciate all the questions thrown at me. And Dr. Ken Anderson, that was a nice surprise. Wasn't expecting him to call. He did. Great hearing from him as always. Thank you so much, Dr. Ken. Good hearing from you. And don't forget to like the broadcast. Hit that like button. I appreciate that. And by all means, if you're not a subscriber, I'm doing this every day now. And if you want to hear more about this, and I will be having more guests, I'm trying to get every member, Hair Transplant Mentor member, on camera for not so much an interview. Like I don't want to do the interview format because you guys can read about them. I've done videos on all these people. I've been to their clinics, most of them, and not so much an interview, but just as a discussion, answering your questions, because that's what really matters. If you want to know something about the doctor, him or her, you can ask them directly on the phone, which is what I prefer. But if you got questions in the chat room, we could do that as well. And I'm going to be picking up with my Instagram Live. If you've not found out my Instagram channel, it is at Joe Tillman Official on Instagram. I've done a few live streams there. I want to be able to pipe you guys in on video to do a split screen. So I think that'd be fun. Adrian from Australia was trying to chime in once, but I guess he had a bad connection and it never actually manifested, so it couldn't work out. But yeah, working on that. But for now, subscribe here, click the or ring the bell for all notifications so you're notified when I'm going live, and of course when we're going live on The Bald Truth every Friday at 3. And like this video, people. Thanks so much for watching. It's been fun, and we'll see you tomorrow on The Bald Truth at 3 p.m.